Welcome back, class. As you know, this week we were wrapping up our practice project. We had a few little things that we needed to go over. Last week we had covered our calculating for our footing lengths, our brick lengths, and our CMU lengths. And then later on in the week I had posted to Moodle your assignment number 5 or part 5 for week 3, which was the conclusion of our practice project, and that consisted of calculating the cubic yardage for your footings, as well as the square foot of your bricks at 2.67 feet high and your square foot for your bricks at the 3.33 high, as well as your pieces for both of those. And then we also went on to calculate the exact same thing for your CMUs. So I just wanted to go over in this video what my answers and my findings were. And then we're going to jump right into our final project, which will follow us and take us through the rest of the semester. So make sure that if you haven't already gotten caught up on the rest of your assignments, that by this week you are caught up, because we will be jumping full swing into our final projects. So if you have any questions or you're having any trouble with anything that we've done up until this point, please shoot me an email as soon as possible. But until then, let's jump right into our final stages of our practice project. As you can see here, I have updated my final practice project floor plan. I have labeled out here my bricks and my CMUs. Beforehand, I did not have that labeled for you all. We were just kind of keeping it organized in our audit trail, which is our green sheets. As you can see, I haven't updated anything else on my section cuts. This is pretty much how my practice project is going to look. Circling back, we have our calculations that we did. I believe on parts 1 and 2. Now down here, as you can see, I've added what our final portion of this project was going to be for our footings, which was calculating the square footage not the square footage, the cubic yardage for my footings, okay? And your footings are at the bottom of your foundation wall. That is what holds up your entire foundation wall. So we need to make sure that these calculations are correct. Otherwise, your foundation is not going to be good. So as you can see, I took my 41-foot length from here, my two 41-foot lengths. Then I took my 25-foot lengths, which can be found up here. Then I took my 24 and my 6, which can be found here and here, and that was for my footing F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, and F6. I had a total linear footage or feet of 162.00, always have a unit of measure in 2 decimal places. I went down here and I then took my 162 feet, multiplied it by the width of my footing, which is 2 feet, by the height of my footing, which was 1 foot, and I came out to 324 cubic feet, okay? Because you know that volume, which is length times width times height, is a measurement of cubic feet, not square feet. And in order to get from cubic feet to cubic yards, which is what concrete is ordered in, I needed to take my 324 cubic feet and divide it by 27 cubic feet, and I got 12.00 cubic yards. So, backing track, for those of you who are wondering why 27, if you take 3 times 3 times 3, which is length times width times height, you come out with 27, and that gives you the cubic foot range for your calculations, okay? So as you can see, my footing length calculation for my total cubic yardage for my practice project should end in 12 cubic yards. If you end in 12.01 or 11.99, depending on how you rounded or how you calculated, that is perfectly fine, okay? As long as you are somewhere in this range, then you have done it correctly. If you stopped at the 3.24 cubic feet, that answer is not correct, because as I said, your Division 3 concrete is measured in cubic yards, not cubic feet. Moving on to the next portion of the project, we have now figured out what our foot in cubic yardage is going to be. Now we are moving on to our bricks. Okay, but remember, our bricks were at two separate heights. We had our 2.67 foot height, and then we had our 3.33 height for our porch. It was our house and our porch. Okay, so if you skip all this mumbo jumbo here, because that was my calculations from last week, I have brought my brick calculations down here to the bottom. Okay, so for my brick total, I took 40 linear feet, which was my B1, added my 2.34, which was my B3, and 15, which was my B2A, my 18.67, which was my B4A, and I got a total of 101.01 feet, okay? I then took that 101.01 feet and multiplied it by the height of my foundation wall, which was, for this case, 2.67, and I got 269.6967. Now, remember, I said you have to have at least 2 decimal places. That is not to say that you can't have more. I wouldn't go past 4, just for calculation purposes. But if you want to round and you wanted to put that at 0.70 or keep it at the 0.69, that is totally your prerogative. That is totally up to you. It is okay. All right, which is why it is very easy to tell if somebody has cheated, because no two people round the exact same. All right, so moving on. Now that we have the 269.6967 square feet, I then multiplied it by the 6.75 bricks per square foot, and I got a total of 1,820.45 bricks or pieces. Now, obviously, you can't have a 0.45, so then I had to round that to the nearest whole number, which gave me 1,821 bricks or pieces, however you want to specify that. Then I moved on to do the exact same thing, except for instead of multiplying it by 2.67, I then multiplied it by the 3.33. So I took the leftover measurements, which were my B2B and my B4B, of the 25 feet and the 8.67 feet, and I got a total of 33.67 feet. I then took my 33.67 feet, multiplied it by my height of 3.33 feet, and got a total of 112.1211 square feet. Again, you could have just kept it at 112.12. You could have rounded up to 112.13, or you could have just, kept all 4 numbers like I did. Either way, whatever is your prerogative, as long as you get around the same answers as me, it is okay. You are still correct. So then I took that square footage of 112.1211 square feet, multiplied it by my height of 6.75 bricks per square foot, and I got a total of 756.82 bricks or pieces, which then I had to round up to the nearest whole number because you can't get half or quarter pieces of brick. You have to, cut those down while you're in the field. So that gives me a total of 757 bricks at the higher height. I hope that made sense. If that did make sense to you, then you're just going to repeat that exact same process for your CMUs or your Cs, okay? For my Cs, I took my 39.34, which was my C1. I took my 26, which was my C3. I took my 14.67, which was my C2A. I then took my 18, which was my C4A. And then I took my 24, which was my C5, and my 6, which was my C6. And I added all those up, and I got 128.01 feet. That was my total linear footage. I then took that linear footage and multiplied it by the height of my foundation wall, which was 2.67, and I came out to a total of 341.7867 square feet. Again, you could have rounded that to 0.79, you could have kept it at 0.78, or you could have kept all 4 numbers. Whichever one is your prerogative, that's totally fine. You are not wrong. I then took that total square footage and I multiplied it, this time by 1.125 CMUs per square foot, instead of the 6.75, because that applies to brick. That does not apply to CMU. I then took my 300, and I got that total of 384.51, which then I had to round up to 385 pieces, or CMUs, however you want to differentiate that is perfectly fine. I then repeated that process for my CMUs at my porch height of 3.33, which was my leftover 24.67 feet plus my 8 feet, and I came out to 32.67 feet. Brought down my 32.67 feet, multiplied it by the height of 3.33, and got a total square footage of 108.7911 square feet. Again, I could have kept it at 0.79. I could have rounded that to 0.80, or I could have kept all 4. It really doesn't matter as long as you have 2 decimal places in a unit of measure. It really doesn't matter how you calculate these. I then took that total of 7911 square feet, times the amount of CMUs per square foot again, which is 1.125, and I got a total of 122.39 pieces, which I then had to round up to the nearest whole number of 123 pieces. So that rounds out my final project. My calculations took 3 pages, to which then this little box in this corner has 1, 2, and this one should have said 3, and they should have had my titles across the top, which I will to match this one, where it says Perry Practice Project Foundation Footing, the date and the page number, as well as my drawings that are color coordinated. I will then stack those on top of each other like so. And that is how I will turn in my practice project. You all will need to scan or take a picture and send me your versions of these. Please send in any questions that you might have. As I said, after this week, we will be jumping straight into our final projects. So make sure that you are caught up until this point. It is very, very easy to get behind. It is very, very easy, specifically this semester, since we are completely online, to get behind and to feel discouraged. But please do not. Just shoot me an email and I will try to help you as best I can. As I said, this course is traditionally a in-person class. However, this semester it is not. So I will try to do everything that I can to help you all. But you got to help me too. You got to let me know if you are struggling or if you are having any kind of issues or problems, so that we can try to get it squared away as soon as possible. But I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video, and have a great day.